Wonder why your Fishfinder is having some power cycling issues, maybe some screen interference, some image clarity loss, or simply isn't turning on at all? Well, might be one of these 13 reasons. Let's rip. Problem number one, let's talk about interference. When you wire your Fishfinder directly to the battery with an inline fuse, you really decrease the probability of having a bunch of interference. When you're pulling power from a battery that is also running this and powering up your motor and cranking your engine and charging your phone, you could potentially have some interference issues. Also, sonar interference may occur when two transducers are using the same frequencies, or when you're near another boat that is using the same sonar frequency. So if you have fishing with a kayak buddy and he's fishing right next to you and you both have the same fish finder because you bought them together or whatever, using the same frequency, you might be having issues. All right, next up is the low battery voltage. So you want to check your fish finder's power source, whether it's the main boat battery or a separate one, and make sure it's fully charged. Also, if you're having issues when you're cranking up your motor, you may be getting a low voltage alarm coming from your fish finder. This is because you don't have a dedicated battery, right? When you're pulling voltage for other parts on your boat or whatever you're doing, your voltage alarm is going to go off on your fish finder. These large units today, right, you got these 10-inch, 15-inch screens, they take up a ton of power, and so they're really sensitive to those voltage drops. I recommend actually having a dedicated power block, right? This one is a Aqua Adventure Gear. This kit's freaking awesome. It's my dedicated power for my fish finder here. Don't take shortcuts to run your fish finder power to a block or a switch panel. Wire it directly to a dedicated battery. This is going to help eliminate interference and also prevent voltage drops that will cause performance and power cycling issues for your fish finder. So as you can see, interference and voltage a lot of times run kind of hand in hand. And the problem is you might be scratching your head. You'd be like, hey, I had this professionally done. Well, a lot of times that doesn't always mean that it's done correctly. And so if you check one of the items I'm going to be sharing with you and that is the reason, take it back to them and get it fixed. All right, next on the list is incorrect transducer placement. So you want to make sure that's properly mounted, positioned parallel to the water surface to make sure you're getting those accurate readings. And you want to make sure that that transducer is perfectly level. So if you have a kayak and you have your transducer on one of those switch blades that kind of flips over to the side here, just remember when you start moving, it's going to get pressure from the water. And if you don't have that trim set on that, so when it has pressure from the water when you're moving forward, it then goes parallel with the water, you're going to have issues with your fish finder not reading correctly. So another thing that might be throwing off your fish finder and it's not working correctly is that you don't have the correct gauge marine grade wire hooking up your battery to your fish finder, right? A lot of people just use what they have around their shop, and a lot of times they use the incorrect wire, and it's not the correct gauge needed for your model of fish finder. So make sure to check your manual and make sure you're using the same wire. It's crazy what some guys will use out there. So keep in mind, marine grade cables like these guys are coated with material like tin to protect the wire from oxidation, to help keep down on that corrosion. Another issue has to do with the transducer mounts, right? Did you DIY your transducer mount? What materials did you make it out of? Was it stable? Any vibration there, or if you use some type of metal, could be throwing off and causing your issue there. All right, if one of the issues that you're having is not really getting great sonar images, and the reason might be is that you're scanning too slow. To get the best images while out in the water, you're gonna wanna be going between 1 and 3 miles an hour. And so if you're just kind of floating and letting the wind kind of push you along, you're like, why am I not getting a great image? That might be the reason why. 1 to 3 miles an hour, get the best image. Another reason you might not be getting really great images is that your contrast and your sensitivity settings are off. So both your contrast and sensitivity settings must be adjusted as you change depths and encounter different bottom hardnesses. And so these adjustments and these minor tweaks can lead to really significant changes as far as how you can view and what you can see. If the sensitivity is set too high, you get what's known as a hot image. It can result in kind of washed out details. And then of course, if you go too low, it's going to darken out the image. The beauty of this is many of these newer units, if you have a newer unit, out of the box is really going to have a solid image. But in case you're messing around and might have messed something up, just know adjusting this is going to help you out. So for a perfect example, let's say the water column is filled with a bunch of leaf litter, making it more challenging to kind of distinguish what is a fish and what is not. So decreasing your sensitivity, right, is going to maybe desirable here. So sometimes, depending on your fishing conditions, a manual adjustment is needed. Okay, another issue that you may be running into is outdated software. So you're going to regularly check for your firmware updates on the manufacturer's website to ensure your Fishfinde is running on the latest software for optimal performance. Also, if you run all kinds of other things that are integrating with your Fishfinde, you want to make sure those are updated as well. Another thing you want to look for is potential transducer cable damage, right? Inspect the cable for any kinks, any cuts, any breaks, especially if you had it stored for a while. Maybe mice got into it. You just never know. There's a variety of reasons of why a wire could get kind of kinked or bent. So maybe that is your issue. So check that. Another issue you might be having, and you'd be surprised, but you might have corrosion in the transducer connector, right? So maybe the fuse holder, the battery terminal. Check all these places for corrosion. And a lot of times some sandpaper, some battery terminal cleaner. So corrosion can cause a weak signal or loss of voltage or no signal at all. I actually have a video how you can clean your Fishfinder connectors, and I'll throw that in the description below, but check that out. Another issue you might have is surface clutter. So this could be another culprit why it's not showing well. If the Fishfinder is displaying too much surface noise, adjust the sensitivity settings to filter out all those unwanted signals, right? The cause of this is what's known as surface clutter. It's common kind of all sonars. Surface clutter appears because the water is too close to the surface, will reflect some of the sonar waves, right? And so these reflections are much too fast for the sonar to process correctly. And the reflection has numerous causes, right? The most common being kind of waves on the surface, bubbles, current, algae. And the result is a lot of kind of like surface noise. And this creates a blind zone where it's kind of impossible to kind of identify fish. And so the amount of clutter and the size of this blind zone can be reduced if the sonar frequency is higher. So a little bit of, if you're having that issue, that might be what you're running into. Also, you might have transducer debris, right, on your transducer, especially if it sits in the water. Having debris and algae growing on it can hinder its performance. So regularly clean that and inspect it to ensure kind of clear readings. So once again, typically only going to be an issue if you leave your boat in the water and your transducer is also in the water all the time on a dirty lake or a river system type of deal. All right, the next issue you might have is you might actually have water in the display unit, and that can cause malfunction. So if you've been through rough waters or you accidentally took a dip, I have mine on the side of my kayak, and there's moisture inside the display unit, of course it's not going to work correctly, right? And it could mean the seal is actually defective, so you'll need to get that replaced. If your unit is still under warranty, hopefully you can get that fixed while still under warranty, so might want to be checking that out. Another issue you might have is the transducer type for your Fishfinder. So there's several types of sonar available, each with kind of its own special capabilities, and each requires a different transducer to work most effectively, right? You have your single frequency, you got your chirp, you have your dual frequency transducers. So make sure you have the right transducer for your Fishfinder you're running. So usually not a problem out of the box, but it could be an issue if you bought secondhand. And keep in mind, if you're in the market for a new Fishfinder, I run a Garmin EchoMap UHD, ultra high definition, 92, that's a 9-inch screen. 2 is the maps that it comes with. Its SV is the side view. And so this has side imaging and down imaging in the same system, which is awesome. And I did a walkthrough of the functionality of this guy right here and the install on my fishing kayak. So if you're interested in the functionality, check that video out right there. If you're interested in the install, check it out right there. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.